Okay, so here is stage one, where we talk about, the gameplay, things like that, and this is the only stage, so it's not like I'm gonna further, but I do have quite a few details of this fleshed out. First, we cover the introduction, of course. That's gonna be very easy to do, but here you meet the trainer. I presumed his position being one I should listen to, but its snarling voice reminded me more of a small mutt from a back alley, inching me more towards laughter than any sort of command or readiness.
You're the next one in here. Normally beast-like. I'll take your arguments and grind them before you'll be ready standings like that.
Of course, he wouldn't stutter, but, I think he spat before I moved, but I can't see, and my sister said unidentified word. I'll take it as a compliment. All of you listen's good. It's the great Fantabulous name. Fantabulous.
I'm trained as Sagveristum Portic Tagnos Klein, the 51st. My consanguinity has lasted the lengths of 5 human lifetimes. I am more noble, stronger, and shiny than all of you, so I am fit to be training you all.
That's how it is. Yeah. Yeah, and then he gives you guns, and just says, have at it. Not real guns, of course. You're in a training arena, and I was imagining this. I don't have an image for this, but I was imagining a big white room with some blue highlights, something like that. And, here we get into the gameplay. Now, it wouldn't look... Obviously, I had to have some sort of string interpolation here, something like that. And you have... But this is a good demo piece for what it would look like, because that's what it was. It was essentially a placeholder, or the true string interpolation that I would have. This is... Okay. Let's go over the basic mechanics of the enemies first. It's probably the easiest way to do this. Essentially, enemies would spawn between 45 and 100 meters from the player. They would spawn basically 45 and 100 meters from the player. At meters greater than 50, they would not be seen. At meters greater than 40, they would be seen. So in between 50 and 40. And at meters greater than 30, so in between 30 and 40, they would be tracked. Now, tracked means you can see them behind obstacles, because there would be obstacles somehow, and your sister would inform you of them, of course. I also have 2 modifiers for the enemies, which is protected, that would be behind an obstacle, and graft, which I'll get to in a second. Graft does something with the actual mechanics. Now, as you see here, you would have a 1-minute timer. Of course, you could set that with a choose option, which I believe I have set here. Yeah, T60, because it's based on 6 seconds. You fire, move, do nothing, and of course, you choose how you fire, you choose how you move, and you choose to do nothing. That's normal. And that's, of course, if you see the enemy. Now, when firing, you'd have a range of damage, of course, and it would be randomly selected, of course. You had a chance for a critical strike. You'd have your ability to hit them would be based on, could you get the degree correct? Could you get the angle you're shooting at correct, compared to where the enemy is moving? That's essentially the core of the gameplay. So as you see here, there is an enemy 75 degrees from your mean. Movement is predicted linear. The enemy mean is facing negative 40 degrees from yours. So essentially you'd be able to use derivatives and things such as that to figure out where the enemy is going. And of course, I'll get to it later, we do have there's supposed to be an archive where in between matches you can go there, read up, see how you can do these mathematical formulas, and sort of make it fun for more people. You know, it's fun for me, but most people don't care. Most people would greatly ignore math. But, you know, and enemies... Now, I say where they're moving, and that's because they have a predetermined graph. I actually have a graph text here in it somewhere, but I'm not going to show you that. It's in the files, you can look at it. But if I look at this here, actually, I believe I have it assigned here. Now, the funny part is, I don't know why I did this looking back in hindsight now, because it doesn't really make sense. But I put parabolic and quadratic as two separate functions. And it makes me laugh thinking about it now, because they're essentially the same thing. Oh, but yeah, I mean, I could look down on it if I find it here. Yeah, here it is. See, I have parabolic and quadratic. But, you know, these would be the graphs the enemies could have. And, you know, I have a few images. If you don't know what these are, you probably do. But, you know, here are, you know, the quadratic and parabolic, exponential, logarithmic. I didn't put logarithmic there, but exponential is the inverse of the, is essentially the inverse of exponential, so I don't bother adding the logarithmic rank. See what I mean? The hypocrisy with the parabolic and quadratic? I don't know why I put that in there. And then, of course, you have the linear here, which is a straight green line. You know, and continuing to go on, you have the sine, the cosine, the tangent, and the cotangent, of course. It's beautiful. Yes, this is beautiful. I know many of you may not have any idea what's going on. Yep. But you say, I mean, you can look at the code. I was trying. I was trying. But yes, and it is a little more advanced than this, because if we scroll down to the bottom, the player has stats. And of course the enemy has stats as well. They have 100 health, but that's about it. But the player, they have their own stats. Now, minus health, you can't modify your health. It'll always be 100. Now, if I made this, you know, full-size game or something, maybe I would make it you can modify your health, but that'd be much more in-depth than what I was going to do here. Here was a whole nother story. This was only supposed to be like a demo piece and whatnot. You think I'd make a full game in batch script? Do you think I'm that dumb? Like, no, this was just supposed to be an experiment. But, you know, although that would be cool if I made it in full batch script. That'd be great. But, I mean, you can make it fully in batch script. You probably can somehow. It's just, it'd be difficult to. It'd just be difficult to. I mean, depending on what you do. If you have the right idea, it may actually be possible. Like, I'm imagining if you want to continuously print something in console and then make that a game loop. I was thinking about that while doing this, but, you know, if you want to do that, you can. Although it's a little weird, and you probably would not sell that on Steam. But it's worth a while. It's worth a thought. It's worth a thought or an idea, you know. But so here's what the player sets to be, and they're a little unique. I like how I set these up, and I'll explain them in a second. So you have accuracy, precision, reload, and firepower, which I can highlight here. Accuracy, precision, reload, and firepower. And you see that division there, and you're probably thinking, oh, what is he doing? You know, but let's get to it. So accuracy is your chance to hit within the scope. So that's just your chance overall to hit if you get within the certain range of degree to actually hit them. That's your chance to hit them. And then you have precision, which is critical chance. And you have precision, which is critical chance. Now you may be asking, why would we bother? Now you may be asking, why, if we can modify these. Of course, I haven't gone over reload and firepower, but you probably already see this issue. You're probably asking, if we can modify these, why would we not just always upgrade accuracy? Considering that literally doubles, because say precision is 2, if we up accuracy, that would always be half. I've thought about this. That's why you have the invisible stat that you modify indirectly. And that's, you increase the range that you can hit them from with the degree. Now this makes it more fun for other people who don't want to do the math. You can increase the range that you can hit them with. Now, that still doesn't fix it, because how you get that is accuracy divided by precision. Now that accuracy alone is the chance to hit in the scope. Precision alone is the critical chance, but to increase the scope is accuracy divided by precision. Now, but you still may be wondering, so why don't I just continuously upgrade accuracy? I'll tell you. Because that increased scope also acts as a multiplier. So, you can multiply as a multiplier. So, when you upgrade precision and say you have 1/2. Okay, you have 1 accuracy, 2 precision. You upgrade to 3 accuracy and 2 precision. Well, obviously now it's some sort of fraction. Obviously now it's some sort of fraction that produces over 1. It's over 100%, of course. That acts as a multiplier for precision. So if you take precision and you multiply, so now if you invest in precision, you're going to get more return. You're going to get more points for precision, and that's why you would want to invest in precision. Now, it does offer a lot of strategy doing that. I think it offers an interesting choice. And I was also thinking, it'd probably be better to randomize accuracy or precision divided every game or so, but that's a little too much. Or at least for this scope of the project. And of course, I'm thinking every game, of course, or every save, of course, not really every single match. That'd be dumb, and then that just remove any point of doing anything. But, let's get the reload and firepower. So, what reload would do is, it would decrease the time between your reloads, of course, and it would increase the chance you have a higher amount of damage. And that sounds weird, but again, I said there's a damage range. So you have this range, this large range. What firepower does is it increases your chance that you're going to get a higher number on this range. That's essentially what it does. That's all it does. It narrows the range so you can have higher numbers. And then, now confusingly, this is very confusing, so just, then you have the damage range stat, which is reload divided by firepower, as seen there. You have the damage range stat. And, of course, this would also add the multiplier to the firepower, so you'd want to invest in firepower a little. And, I think that produces quite a bit of strategy, makes it very interesting. When this would essentially be the core loop of the gameplay, it'd be turn-based, really. So, you move, you spot an enemy, you decide what to do, you move again, try to get closer, maybe the enemy spots you, they'll start shooting at you, things like that, and this would be the core loop of the gameplay. Yeah, this would be the core loop of the gameplay. And that's where the graph stat comes in. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that, but the graph stat allows you to see... The graph thing would happen after 3 turns. So after 3 turns, you would be able to see what the graph is, and that's where the mathematics comes in. After 3 turns, you would be able to see what the enemy graph is, because your sister would tell you they'd track it after 3 turns of seeing the enemy. And this is, again, how the core gameplay loop would go. And you'd have a certain number of enemies. They'd spawn at random ranges between 45 and 100, etc., etc. We can go on and on. Now, of course, in future stages, I'm pretty sure I had the next stage after the training stage already planned out from a scenery perspective, and how it was going to work. So, basically, to make it more difficult, we'd add a new type of graph every round. So in the first round, we'd have linear graphs. In the second round, we'd have quadratic graphs. In the third round, we'd have, I don't know, not exponential. We'd have sine or cosine graphs. It would be like that. So every level, you add a new type of graph. And it'd be random what graphs you get, but you'd still be adding a new type of graph every round, and it's a cool little game. I think it's a good idea. I'm still planning on coming back to it, but if anyone wants to take the idea, I think I wouldn't blame them. It's a cool idea. Of course, you have all these graphs here. You have these graphs here. We just go down the line essentially, just down the line, down the line, and following these graphs, I already sort of had scenery for stage 2 planned out. So let's go over that. So what was stage 2 gonna be? I don't have anything written for stage 2. Stage 2 is essentially it's dead. I'll return that later. But what was stage 2 essentially going to be? What is it going to be? It's stage 2. Well, what is stage 2? Okay. So essentially, you have a desert planet. There are these colonies. Now the reason why I have this scenery set out so well is because this was actually an idea I had separate from the game before I made the game. So it's, I just kind of merged it in. So you have a desert planet that's essentially just, I don't know, maybe about 5,000 people across the entire planet. Very sparsely populated, very new, and that would be your first mission. It'd be easy, there's a small amount of people, you essentially have to capture a small town. Now I could talk about how it works. I was thinking the main ecology of the planet was little worms in sand, and these worms, they'd feed on each other to survive. They'd essentially be some of the only animals. They feed on each other to survive, and their eggs in the sand would just lay there. Now, there would be small oases. Now, this is kind of like Dune, and this is what it's inspired by. There would be small oases, or what is the plural of oasis? I'd have to look into that. We'll say oases for now, but you'd have basically these oases dotted around the planet where you'd have just tons of worms eating on, fungus such as mushrooms and things like that. And this is where you'd have these colonies of humans set up where they can get water, they can look at the grass, and this is like Dune. Because in Dune, they have these small areas, very sparsely populated around the planet, that are just green, in a way. That just house I've forgotten their name. It's been a long time since I've read Dune. or Dune, not Doom, Dune, with Dune, but, yes, forgot what they're called, but, you know, the little... you get what I'm saying if you know what Dune is, okay? That's all I need to say. And, you know, the people on this planet, they'd have motorcycles. So if I think this is it. Yeah, okay, so they'd have sort of a cross between a dirt bike. Oh, whoa, this is zoomed in. Okay, so they'd have sort of a cross between a dirt bike and a chopper, if you look at this here. So, you know, just try to imagine, you know, crosses between all of these, you know, dirt bike and a chopper, be sort of mixed. And the reason they'd have these, it's because it's much more efficient to go across the sand like this. However, it's much more fuel efficient, I should say. Not really speed efficient, but fuel efficient to go across the sand like this, with you know, certain tires made for the sand and things like that. And it wouldn't be this low bearing either, you know. It'd just be a combination of them, sort of. With high suspension, of course, to go over the sand dunes. And because of this, and you know, these bikes would also have the ability to transform into hovercraft, which would be much preferred, but it's only used in emergencies or when you need to use emergency fuel and things like that. So, like, when you need to expedite a patient over the desert or something like that, you know, in a medical sector. But yeah, it's just a combination of these few bikes and things like that. Of course, yeah. You know, and I don't have it much thought out. You know, I was thinking maybe they'd be in the classic dome sort of thing that people imagine Mars to be and whatnot, but You know, I didn't really think about the architecture too much. More along the lines of the culture. I mean, and this was imported from some other idea. You know, and of course, I don't think I would put this in stage 2, of course, but you were probably thinking of, well, doesn't it seem weird that these people are running on graphs, especially like cosines and things like that? And yeah, it's a little weird, but it makes more sense if you think about aircraft. Because aircraft tend to follow these sort of lines. And I was thinking, these are the types of things that would utilize, you know, especially the cosine, tangent, the trigonometry. There we go. So, especially the trigonometry. These types of crafts would be the trigonometry. Now, sorry. Sniffles, got a little bit of sniffles, but, you know. But yeah, it's essentially these types of craft, things like that, whatever these are, you know. I haven't really thought that out. You shouldn't expect me to think it out. But yeah, that essentially emphasizes my main point of the whole gameplay and whatnot. And you know, every round you'd earn a few points, you'd invest them, and you know, that's essentially the main core loop. I think that really rounds it up. You know, I think that rounds it up. There's one more episode to go, and that's just over extraneous features, including music, which you may be surprised with, considering batch script. But it's... yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Of course, you know, have the social medias. I have, you know, Ko-Fi, Patreon, if you want to donate and things like that. You know, I have Twitter, Discord, of course, subscribe, I guess. But thanks. That should end the video, yeah.